Alright guys, so today I want to talk about analyzing the QQQ and the SPY. So every day I go in LA I wake up at about 5 a.m. and one of the things I look at is the Q because I want to get an idea of where this thing might be headed and how that's going to affect the types of stocks that I'm trading. So here we are. This is how the day ended. It's 1:15 p.m. I can zoom in here a little bit. And so this is where we are. We closed down here. And in order to prep for tomorrow, I pretty much just want to draw lines that are relevant to this area up here, which is where the Q is going to be headed next. So I want to create lines that are pretty much essentially just going to go through the area of where the Q will be tomorrow. So we'll start out with the all-time high, which it hit today. And then we'll do the highs of these days as well, because it looked like the low coordinates with this high here. So see this low and this high are in coordination. Now we can do like a bit of a trend line and see if anything goes through. So like for tomorrow, that might be a little bit too far to reach. So we'll try a tighter one. This one could work, so I'll just leave that there. And then let's try this guy right here. So these are some lines that we may come into tomorrow, depending. And then I want to do this pivot right here, because it looks like we hit a pivot, pulled back, and then gapped up. So these look like pretty good lines that we could encounter tomorrow. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to apply this to smaller time frame charts. So I'm on my daily view, and I'm pretty much just going to apply this to all my charts. So I have a hotkey set for Alt-C, which means apply these lines to all charts on eSignal. And now let's take a look at what that looks like on the 5. So here's the 5-minute. Shrink it down a little bit. I want to be able to see the pre-market and the post-market, so I have to change my time template. Okay, so this little gray area is the after hours. So here's our 5-minute chart. We see we've got a couple pivot lines here. So when we come into tomorrow, we're going to see if this is gapped below or if it's coming into this line here. And these lines are very likely we're going to see reactions when the price comes into here. So when we come down here, depending on how we react to this line, we have the chance to hit this line and come back up here. So this is kind of the zone. These are different zones that we'll be working in to see where this QQQ is headed next. I want to drop some indicators on here because you can tell that there's no indicators on this chart right now. So I have I saved out my layout already, so all I have to do is hit Shift and L, and then it pops up my indicators. So I've got the 20 EMA, 50 EMA, 100 EMA, and 200 EMA. We're pretty extended. I also have Bollinger Bands, which is 2 standard deviations above and below the average price. So as you can see, like we're really extended into the hitting like 2 standard deviations above the average price over the past 20 days. So, you know, I could see this playing with this all-time high tomorrow, maybe sticking in this range, either going flat or maybe even trying to hit this line, rejecting, and coming back down. Coming back down again. We need to see a correction probably to the 20 or the 9. I don't usually put the 9 EMA on the daily chart because it's just too much clutter. So yeah, pretty much that's how we analyze the Q. We're going to see how these lines play out tomorrow, but you can see them coming through on this chart here. Alright, so this is a chart showing the QQQ yesterday, and these are the trend lines and pivot points that we mapped out. So I wanted to see how today the QQQ has reacted to these lines that we mapped out. So this candle is showing yesterday, which was 7/7/21, and then now we just fast forward to today. Here is today's candle. So let's zoom in on the 5 and see how we reacted. Just gonna pop this up, and I'm using e-signal, by the way, which I really like for the charts that are less than 1 minute. You can really get pinpointed entries on your reactions to these lines. So here's a zoom in, here's the 5-minute chart. So at the market open, I set my time template to 5 a.m. So this is how we react right here. Straight down into this pivot right here. That's incredible. It's crazy. It's like almost perfect. It just blew through it a little bit. There's also the 9 exponential moving averages right around this level as well. So that created double support. So now, after we bounce off this level, we actually go straight into testing this trend line that was drawn here. So we test that, come back down, test down here, test up here. This yellow line is the today's open. So we're just bouncing back and forth between these lines. This level down here, this trend line up here, the today's open, and then we do a final test of this level, and we bounce off, we break through this trend line, and once we break through, we actually go straight up into the next pivot that we mapped out. So it looks like we tested it a bunch, and then once we broke through, we kind of hit resistance and fell back down. So now it looks like we came under and retested, and we're gonna see what happens now. But since we saw a 5-minute close down here, we could expect to see this come back down to the next levels, maybe come out down here, bounce and test. Depending on how it reacts, it could fall further. Otherwise, we still have about an hour left until market close. We can see it come up and then come back up here, but maybe that'll happen tomorrow. We'll see. It's pretty slow. It's a slow mover. So yeah, it looks like the levels that we mapped out yesterday worked like almost perfectly, especially if you're trading any of the QQQ ETFs, like the TQQQ or the SQQQ. You could always use these levels to kind of trade off of. Now I want to zoom in to the 24-second chart, because that's really how you can get your really, really precise entries. So let me just go 24 seconds. And we'll see how the QQQ price levels have reacted at those different levels that we drew out. So we're going to kind of just like shorten this chart here. Because it's so detailed, it kind of takes a minute to load up. So let's zoom in here a little bit. Alright, so here's our gap down in the morning. Looks like we break through, do a back test, but we get above. Now we get above, we come back up. Because I don't see another back test here, I'm going to want to see that back test later on at some point before being able to make that move back up. And so it looks like we wait all the way till after the market opens to come back and back test this line. We break above, back test again over here. And you can see where it's testing is so almost to the penny, like right here. It's crazy. These lines really work, and you know, they're not really hard to draw. So let's check this out. We finally break through. We break through today's open, break through the VWAP, and we're off until we hit this line right here. Now I want to zoom in again right there. I mean, look at this. You break through, we test, and then this candle tests it almost exactly perfectly to the penny. And once we get that back test, we've got higher highs, higher lows established. We've got that back test, and now it's off. Zoom out. So yeah, it's crazy. Like, you can see how detailed and how almost exactly to the penny these levels are working. And again, if you wanted to trade any sort of like Q ETFs or products, drawing these lines, you just work off these levels. Once they get through one level, you kind of expect it to just get to the next and the next. And these would be your entry points and your price targets. So yeah, that's how we analyze the QQQ on a day-to-day basis. Now, I can't predict what's going to happen too far in the future, but we can use these levels to kind of just day trade off of and make some money that way. Cool. Hope you guys enjoyed this video.